What is your favorite hobby? Now, that could tend to be quite a diversified question, since anything from pulling out your phone for a quick game of chess to creating fully programmable computer code could be considered a hobby. However, I believe you would all agree with me when I say when picking a hobby, it's one of the most important and unique opportunities you will have in your life, since it is one of the only times you're going to be able to pick what you want, pick something enjoyable that gives you a small dopamine rush while still bettering yourself for the long term and increasing your productivity rate. And that's why I believe martial arts to be one of the most optimal hobbies to have, since it increases your empowerment, discipline, and work ethic while still being as enjoyable as any other hobby. However, let me not get too ahead of myself. When I say the words martial arts, what do you think of? You could think of anything from Chinese Kung Fu to modern day Western boxing. However, all of these martial arts will have the same benefits that I will be talking about today, so worry not. I believe we're all familiar with the phrasing, with a healthy body comes a healthy mind, or something along those lines. While we might have all heard this, we might not realize quite how potent it truly is. In 1999, a Blue Menthol study conducted that 12 weeks of regular exercise is just as effective when it comes to curing depression as taking a medically prescribed antidepressant. Now, why is that? It's because generally, when one part of our body reacts to something, the rest of our body attempts to retroactively react with it. And the reason why that's so pertinent when it comes to martial arts is because it trains your entire body, which would in turn help your mental stability. Mixing this in with the added benefit of self-defense skills, you'd begin to understand why it's a great recipe for heightened confidence. A second element in play here is the team camaraderie and passion built around the arts. Having like-minded individuals who have been in similar situations to you around you, they have seen you set higher and higher goals, better and better solutions to harder and harder problems, is very important, because when they call that out to you, that could be very pertinent to your development. Let me give you a quick anecdote to prove that. Have you ever had a young relative see a young nephew or cousin that you see, say, once a year? Every time you see that relative, you see that they might have had differences in their voice or facial structure. Why did you notice that change? It's because last time you saw them to now is a full swoop motion. You saw them, they were different, now they have changed. For that relative, they will probably not notice those changes on themselves. It's because for them, that change happened gradually and slowly through incremental changes. So they might not realize that they changed. Now, obviously, this doesn't just apply to your young relative, it applies to everything in life. When you are in a martial art or anything in life and you're developing, it's very hard to notice that we have been improving. It's very hard for us to visualize gradual change. So having people around you that call that out to you is very important. And generally, martial arts dojos and gyms understand this idea. That's why they will hold mini ceremonies where they will offer their applause every time you reach a new rank or level. Now, before I continue speaking about the great positives of martial arts, let me give you a bit of a cautionary warning that some of you might have. A lot of people might be worried when it comes to martial arts that it's too dangerous, brutal, or maybe even barbaric. Now, there are many conflicting studies surrounding this matter. For example, there's a study that 7 boxers on average pass away due to in-ring accidents. However, there's another conflicting record that there hasn't ever been a death in mixed martial arts due to an in-ring accident. However, I will not be trying to sway you one way or another when it comes to professional competition. All of these benefits that I will be talking about today can come through training in a controlled environment with trusted gym partners and coaches. So worry not. If you do need that competitive spark, you could train such sports as folk-style wrestling or modern-day Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you'll get the same benefits with the added competition factor. This leads me to the last and, in my opinion, most important factor when it comes to martial arts. You will face adversity. There will be a time when you're dazed, tired, maybe even hurt, and you will be forced to find a solution. Why is that so important? It's because generally in life, it's very easy for us to get distracted. There's a quote that I once heard that goes along the saying that hard times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And it's very easy for us to fall under that cycle, especially in today's society, where we could get instant gratification from just pulling out our phone or getting any bit of enjoyment instantly. And it's very hard to find an outlet to train that. What martial arts does, more so than teach us how to physically condition ourselves, it teaches us to mentally condition ourselves for our own mental battle. Because we all fight every day, whether we realize it or not. What martial arts does is train you for that mental battle. Let me personalize this and give you a quick example that I went through. I had a national championship fight where in the very first 15 seconds, I was hit with a right hand. It had me very hurt and I was stumbling. To add insult to injury, past 1 minute in that fight, I was very tired because I was sick right before the fight. And the list of possible excuses for me to pull out or give up kept counting up. However, due to years of training and conditioning, not just my physical, but my mental ability, I could see the larger goal is in sight and I didn't give up. And in that fight, I won my national championship in Libya. My talk today mostly centered around martial arts. However, a lot of people might not be able to practice the arts due to a various amount of reasons. It could be due to their setting or a lot of different reasons. However, I would like to urge you all that even if you can't train martial arts, when picking a hobby, make sure you pick something that betters you long term. Pick something that is good for you and doesn't just feed into your instant gratification. Because while it might seem that we have a lot of time in this world, it truly is very limited and we might not be able to take advantage of that if we're not careful. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.